Alright, boils and ghouls. So, first of all, I just want to say thank you to everybody for your thoughts and prayers, your comments, everything regarding Dave. Just keep him in your hearts and prayers. He is still with us as of an update I got this morning. So, they're keeping him, alive, technically, until Sunday or Monday, and they're going to ease him off the medication. So, just keep your prayers and thoughts going. But I was going to make a post last night saying that there'll probably be a delay with videos for a few days, but honestly, I'm going to go nuts if I don't do something in my free time here. So might as well talk a not good movie. Let me say that like right up front here. This movie's not good. This movie's not that well written. The acting is terrible for the most part. The dialogue is cringeworthy. So why am I going back to this movie? I honestly couldn't tell you. It's one of those movies that you know is bad and awful in a lot of ways. But there's something about it. I don't know, maybe it was just the mood I was in when I watched this a few weeks ago. But the premise for this movie, if you haven't seen it, it's on Tubi. It came out last year. Don't Look Away. This is based off a short. But when I looked into that, I didn't see any of the same names, like, relating both of them together. So I don't know if this is directly based off the short, but it's the same name from 2017, Don't Look Away, except in that short, it's about 8-9 minutes long. It's not a killer mannequin. It's just like some supernatural being. So the premise is pretty much identical to that. If it's the same people involved, I didn't see that when I looked it up quick. So for this feature-length film here, we have a group of friends led by this girl named Frankie. And after witnessing an accident and seeing this mannequin, and the mannequin is creepy, I'll give it that. Like, that's 1 point for this movie. But after she sees this mannequin, then she starts seeing it all over the place, and then her friends see it. And once you see it, you're pretty much like cursed that this mannequin is going to kill you. And the only way to keep it from moving and teleporting around is to not look away. If you stare at this mannequin, it'll stay where it's at. As soon as all eyes are off of it, it could teleport anywhere. Teleport behind you, slit your throat. It's basically a very bad slasher killer mannequin movie. That's probably the best way to describe this. But they break that rule of looking away from the mannequin at least like 100 times in this movie. There was so many times that they are looking at it and it still teleports, or they look away and it doesn't move. I don't know. The rules are just terribly established in this movie. This category of movies that I know are terrible movies, but there's something about it that's just entertaining. Like, I feel like when we talk about movies from the 80s, especially, that we know are bad movies, we can just blanket it with, it's the 80s. Like, it's a bad 80s movie. I feel like that's used often for 80s films, especially. But when it comes to, like, modern movies, sometimes they're just fucking entertaining. Like, there doesn't have to be a reason. It just for some reason, I had fun with this. Let's have fun with it again and tear the shit out of this movie. So, let's deep dive into Don't Look Away. Now, the cast in this movie, bunch of fucking nobodies. I've never heard of any of them. But the main chick who plays Frankie, her name is Kelly Bastard. That's her name. Now, I thought of jokes for the last 2 weeks, on and off, when this movie entered my mind. I'm in a good, generous mood, so I'm going to lay off her. I feel like that girl's probably gotten shit for that name her entire life, so she doesn't need me piling on top of it. She's fine in this. She's not good, like, at all, but she carries the type of film that this is. A low-budget, bad, fun movie. Now, a movie that this reminds me of, and I'm saying this just in the way that I just find it entertaining for some reason, and I don't know why, despite I know it's a bad film, is Blumhouse's Truth or Dare from, what was it, 2017, 2018, something like that. The faces look ridiculously stupid in that movie. There's a lot of terrible stuff in that film, too. I'm not saying the movies are similar in any way. But just in that entertainment factor that I can't quite identify what it is, but I can have fun with that movie. Also, doesn't hurt that I forget the actress's name, but who plays the main chick in Truth or Dare? It's fucking hot, man. So that doesn't hurt it either. I think, well, I know one of the biggest reasons I find this entertaining, or found it entertaining the time I watched it, let's see how it holds up this time, is just the premise. And I said this in a post back when I watched it a few weeks ago. We don't have a lot of killer mannequin movies. We have some movies with creepy mannequins in them. Tourist Trap comes to mind, Maniac. There's a few others with mannequins in them that are creepy as hell. But they're not killer mannequins. I honestly can't think of a killer mannequin movie off the top of my head. I'm sure it's been done probably dozens of times. I've just never seen whatever movies those are. But just the premise alone of having a supernatural slasher mannequin stalking a bunch of friends, and if you stare at it, like I said, even though they break this rule mad times, then it doesn't move until you look away, and then it can teleport anywhere. Just that premise alone is pretty original. Like I said, it's probably been done, but you don't see it often, is my point. So just that alone makes me have fun with this. Alright, so spoilers from here on out if you haven't seen this movie. Like I said, I can't really recommend it, so it's not like I could say, go, leave this, check it out on Tubi. I recommend it if you know what you're going into. If everything that I said in the last few minutes here sounds like something you can have a fun time with, then check it out. If not, we're going to talk spoilers here. So we open up with this robbery. There's a truck that's transporting this creepy-ass mannequin in a wooden box or crate in the back of this truck, and these robbers park a car in front of the truck, block it off. They end up trying to rob this truck, and they end up releasing the mannequin from his confines in the wooden crate. And once you see this thing, like I said, you're cursed, and it's going to keep stalking you until it slashes and kills your ass. So our main character, Frankie, after everyone gets killed, there's like 3-4 people at the beginning here, the robbers and the truck driver, they all get murdered. There's no great kills in this movie at all. I think maybe, if I remember right, there was 1 or 2 that looked okay, but even the kills aren't great in this movie. But they all get killed, and Frankie ends up killing the driver of the truck, who runs out in the middle of the road, and our main girl hits and kills him. Then she sees in her rearview mirror the mannequin, which means now she's a target, and she ends up exposing this mannequin basically to all of her friends. It's very It Follows too. There's a ton of It Follow vibes in this movie. There is a whole subplot in this movie that has no right being in here. It's basically a ripoff of The Shining. The Shining's blood and essence flows through this movie so much in the subplot with Frankie's boyfriend losing his mind. He starts he doesn't believe in this killer mannequin thing. All her group of friends and this close friend of hers that has a thing for her, and she kind of had a thing for him, but then she ended up with this douchebag guy. He's working on this thesis, right? And he starts losing his mind, total Jack Torrance style. 100, to the point that it just rips The Shining off, cold-bloodedly, man. It's not an homage. It's way more than an homage. You have one scene when, first of all, they're being stalked by a killer mannequin, and they throw The Shining on for comfort, her and her friend, one night. So they already have you hear The Shining in the background. They're watching the movie. So we get it. The guy's a fan. The director or writer is a fan of The Shining. Then we see a scene with the boyfriend losing his mind. He's writing his thesis. He doesn't believe in the mannequin, but yet for some reason he's going crazy. He never showed signs of being a lunatic before the events of this movie. When they first show their relationship, he seems like a normal guy until the mannequin stuff starts. That's when he starts going off the deep end. There's really no explanation for any of that subplot. But he's at a bar later on, and he's talking to nobody, just like Jack Torrance in The Shining, and let me get another drink, there's no bartender there. And then, egregiously, she goes, like, I don't know, near maybe the third act of this movie, checks out his thesis on the computer, and it's just the words mannequin written over and over again, pages and pages of the Word document. That's when it gets like, oh, come on, man. Like, the whole subplot here about the boyfriend makes me think that they had like a 40-minute script or like a half hour, and they said, we need to throw some extra shit in here to expand on just the mannequin, stalking this group. And they came up with this insanely stupid idea surrounding her boyfriend. So that's a huge negative on this movie. Yeah, this video is going to be all over the place, but when is it not? So then after she hits the driver and she sees this mannequin, we see this scene with a blind dude. I don't think you see that he's blind in this first scene that we see him in the beginning, but he's blind as shit when we see him later on. He looks alright with the creepy, like, blind eyes and stuff. I mean, they did a good job with the design of him, but even his whole character's out there. But we see him, and he gets a phone call, I'm assuming from the company that was transporting the mannequin. So we know he has a history with this mannequin. And he's saying, no, like, I don't care about the insurance. Like, it's not going to cover another human life. Now, remember this, because he says it's not going to cover another human life. Like, he doesn't want another person to die. We see him a little later. All right, like, I probably could, I know I can't, put up like a counter for how many times they break the rule of looking away from this mannequin, but I'm not going to. But we're going to point them out right here in the beginning. She's in the room, in her living room. She's just had a little conversation with her boyfriend about fixing her car because of the accident of her, hitting and killing the driver of the truck. And we see the mannequin in a nice little shot of him standing there stalking her. She don't know he's there. She's not looking at him. Why doesn't he just kill the shit out of her, like, right now? It's every instance of whether this mannequin disappears or stays in place is so convenient for the plot. It's almost insulting at some points. Also, to clarify, they do say later in the movie why the mannequin has kept her alive and doesn't kill her right away. So they do address it. I'm just more pointing out how stupid it is, the whole idea of not looking away from this thing, or whether you look at it or not, it doesn't really affect anything unless the script says so. Then we get this whole long, drawn-out sequence that's just for a jump scare, and we'll get to what it is. She's walking around the house, and she's hearing noises. The doorbell rings once, freaks her out a little bit, but it's just a package. Doorbell rings again, she freaks out again. It's the guy, boyfriend, not ordered. You can't order a handyman, right? Got the guy to come work on the car. So she's freaking out with paranoia. She's walking all around this house, and then she starts hearing noises in the closet. Then she calls her friend. And her friend comes over, and they're staring at the closet, and they hear noises too. So the friend goes to open it, and it's a fucking Roomba. Dude, it's a Roomba little vacuum cleaner robot that she forgot she had one. I don't know what is with the Roomba in this movie. There is another one. There are 2 Roomba jump scares, which I've never seen in a movie. So obviously this is a huge positive for this film. Although, as good as it is to get a unique object used for a jump scare like a Roomba twice, the length that it takes to get there, it negates the positives. Back to 1+ for this movie so far. So then, after she kills this guy, it's manslaughter, it's an accident, of course, but she's very affected by it. She goes to a nightclub with her friends. All right, cool. Her friend ends up giving her, I don't know, looks like ecstasy or something like that, and says, she says 1 pill isn't going to make everything go away. And her friend says, maybe it will. I like a style and a way of thinking. Things do not go well at all. She goes to the bathroom, Frankie, the main chick. She comes back. It's hard to tell because they just show like bodies on the floor, but it looks like everyone in the club was murdered. Everybody. Because a little later on, I think they say something that it might have been like bad drugs or something like that. But there's a ton of bodies on the floor of this club. The group of friends she was there with left before the whole thing happened. So there was like maybe last call amount of people, but still decent amount of bodies. Then she sees a good friend of hers get killed right in front of her. And she sees the mannequin a few times. So now she's trying to convince all of her friends that this killer mannequin is real. And of course nobody believes her. Which all of that is stupid as shit, mind you. The cops in this movie, I mean, you barely see them. But they just let this girl go. They don't even take her down to the station to like intensely grill her. She's the only person alive after a bunch of people died at a nightclub. So they just gloss over all of that. But then Jonah, that's the friend that she had like some type of romantic feelings for in the past, and then she started dating her douchebag Jack Torrance boyfriend. He ends up going for a walk, and he ends up seeing the mannequin. So he ends up believing her, very much like Truth or Dare. When the guy that, what's her name, the main chick likes, starts believing her because he sees it first. Like usual, it's not all bad. I like some of the shots here when he's in the park and there's this dog and he thinks it's the person's dog. He thinks it's a person that he's seeing in the distance. And there's some cool shots there with the mannequin standing there and there's some fog, the lighting's cool. So there's some good stuff. And he thinks that this is this person's dog. And then the dog gets scared and runs away. And this guy's like, nope, I'm out. And for some reason, which we find out later, he gets spared by the mannequin also. So he screams at the mannequin, which he's like 20 feet away. He doesn't realize this ain't a human being. I mean, it's obviously a mannequin. But he looks away from this thing 4 times. I counted. And that mannequin was still in the same spot. Then it appears behind him, and now he knows it's a mannequin. This is some of the most convenient expositional bullshit I've seen in a movie in a long while. They get together, Jonah and Frankie, and this is kind of what I guess they're trying to do with the boyfriend of Frankie, the one who goes all Jack Torrance. He's getting jealous that she's spending time with Jonah, and yeah, I know it happens in real life and people go fucking nuts over love and shit like that. I just don't believe it for this movie. It's just too shining, it's too much of a ripoff, and it's written terribly. So I don't buy it that he's losing his mind just because he's jealous that she's hanging out with somebody else. This girl accidentally killed somebody. Now she has a killer mannequin after her. And then her friends start getting murdered left and right. And she ain't going all Jackie Torrance. But regardless, stop distracting me. They're together and they're talking about it because he just saw the mannequin the night before. And he says, how can this be real? This is like one of those creepy pastas like Slender Man or something. And then she says, what if it is? And he pulls out his phone, gets on Reddit, and immediately finds a video of this other woman somewhere far away from them who is crying to the camera saying that she's being stalked by a mannequin and all her friends are dead and shit. Get the hell out. Are you kidding me? That is such terrible writing to get them the exposition that they need to know that they're not crazy. Come on. Oh, it's so bad. But the ending of the video is hysterical. She starts trying to give help to anyone who's watching this video. So she says, if you... just the way she says it, and she's saying it out loud, it sounds insane. She says, if you or anyone you know is being stalked by a mannequin, don't... And then she gets knocked over. And you see the mannequin, like, behind her shade, so I guess it killed her, and then teleported outside just to be photographed. Hey, it's photogenic. But she tried to convey, don't look away from it. They didn't hear it. They just heard don't. So they still got like half the movie till they realized don't look away from this thing. Now, even though I said the whole stuff with The Shining is so overboard, it's not even funny, you could tell that the director or writers here and stuff, they're horror fans. Because there are more homages thrown out there. They mentioned the Blair Witch Project and some other movie, some found footage movie, I forget. But they're showing this video that they found on Reddit in 2 seconds to the rest of the group of friends to try to get them to believe them. And one of the girls says it's probably just a horror film, like a viral marketing campaign. Oh yeah, like the Blair Witch Project and this movie. Then they straight up name drop It Follows. Because this guy asks her, how's he kill? How does this mannequin kill? And then she just starts this little monologue. it follows. Come on. Like, as much as I said the premise is pretty original, everything else about this movie is so fucking derivative, it's not even funny. Now, this is a decent scene. They're all together, they're trying to convince them, and they end up all looking out the window, and they see the mannequin, all of them. And the friends are saying, like, man, nice job, and then some of them are getting pissed, saying, like, our friend was just killed last night, like, this is way too far. And then a few of them look away, not all of them. 3 or 4 of them are staring out that window the entire time, did not look away, but then the mannequin teleports right in front of the window. It was like 20 feet away, now it's right up there, and now they don't know what to say. Then they all turn around, and the mannequin's standing right there in the house. Then they kind of start freaking out. But again, when it teleports into the house, mad people are looking at it. There's one dude who turns around and says, what the hell? And then it's standing there, they all turn around. So you gotta just put the rules completely out of your head for this movie. Then this incredible bullshit I don't believe in a million years happens. The boyfriend comes home and she says, hell, it was just here. All the friends were here and experienced this. They just saw a mannequin standing 20 feet away from the house, teleport instantly to right in front of them outside the window, and then instantly teleport behind them. And the boyfriend says, everybody, can you leave? I want to talk with Frankie. And they all just leave. They all leave her. No one, except for Jonah, the guy that she has like a past thing with and likes her. He's the only one who tries to say something. He says, like, I don't know what the boy, his name is Jack Torrance for this movie. Goes to Jack, listen, she's telling, and then he just shuts him down. Nobody else stands up for their friend. That is awful. But then there's a scene that I kind of like. The guy who turned around and saw the mannequin behind them, he's driving with the black friend. I don't know his name. I don't know any of these people's names except for Frankie and Jonah. They're driving, the two of them, and he's trying to make sense of it. And he's trying to use logic. And he's saying, what if it's not a mannequin? It's somebody in a mannequin costume. Or they switched the mannequin out real fast, like when we weren't looking, and none of it really makes sense. But he's trying to at least rationalize this, because that's exactly what I would be doing. It would take a lot for me to actually be convinced that there's a supernatural killer mannequin. That if you look away, it teleports all over the place before it kills you. It would take a lot more than just seeing what they saw. So I like that they threw the scene in here that at least somebody is trying to think about it rationally. So that guy who claims he's a scientist, I don't know what type of scientist he is, he goes to the pool to clear his mind, and the mannequin drowns him. You don't see the mannequin a few times, it creeps up, it's very devoid of any suspense, just like the earlier scene. So now we're down 2 friends from the mannequin. Girl at the club, and all the other people. But they don't mention them again. And this guy now. So this is where Jack Torrance starts losing his mind for no fucking reason. But it says a lot about her too, this scene, because he starts telling her he had a terrible nightmare, the worst dream he ever had. That he killed her. Chopped her bodies up into a million little pieces. And again, I mean, shining as can be. But she stays with him after that. If I was with anybody and they told me that they had a dream that they murdered me and chopped me up into little pieces, pretty sure that's like a good contender for ending a relationship. For some reason, she stays with him after hearing that story. And let me hammer it home, too. That old dream that she just heard, her boyfriend murdered her in his dream and chopped her up into a whole bunch of pieces. And she just glosses right over it. And she just says, what if this thing with the mannequin never ends? And she goes on to talk about the mannequin. It's like she didn't even hear him. So Jonah ends up getting in touch with the blind dude from the very beginning, who was transporting the mannequin and led to the robbery and the mannequin getting out. So then we get this very predictable scene with the black guy and his girlfriend, and he's on the phone. He goes to like the deli or something right around the corner, and the mannequin gets her to go upstairs somehow to the roof. I don't know. She goes up to the roof for some reason, and then right when he's on the phone talking to Jonah and they need to stick together, he says, we'll be just fine, and her body comes splatting down right in front of him, and he's heartbroken. He just doesn't know what to think, because this guy was like the most skeptic. Then we get Jack Torrance at the bar giving his whole speech and wanting another drink from the invisible bartender. I don't know if that's supposed to be like, is he seeing the mannequin? You never see the mannequin in this guy's point of view in the whole movie until a certain scene that's coming up, and then he's dead afterwards. Besides that, he never sees this mannequin. So at first, when I was watching this for the first time, I was like, is the mannequin controlling him, or is he seeing the mannequin and he's thinking he's a bartender? And something, any way to try to explain this. But there's no way to, in my eyes. And then one of the other female friends gets killed, and for some reason, just for dramatic effect, she dies and she's standing up. She has both her eyes gouged out or in or whatever. The mannequin killed her, and she's just standing there. Her phone's ringing. The other girl comes around, sees her whole face is fucked up. Yet she's still standing this whole time. She looks like the mannequin. Then we get the super cliche when one of the people in the group loses their boyfriend or girlfriend. The black guy who lost his girlfriend splatted off the roof. He comes in with a gun and starts threatening the main girl, saying this is all your fault and you brought this mannequin. That's so, we see that in so many movies. It's so tiring, and it's just as tiring here. I gotta say, approaching the third act here, it's definitely not as entertaining as the first time that I watched this, but it's still entertaining. In a way, for some reason that I'll never understand really. Although I kinda now wish that we had a movie about a killer Roomba. Just from the jump scares in this movie, it's really making me want that movie. So then, everyone's together, right? The remaining people. They're at Frankie's house, and the boyfriend's there too. He says he just wants to work on his thesis. This is when we get the huge shining ripoff with Mannequin written all over the place. Then the mannequin appears on the front lawn, and they're all looking there, and now they figured it out to not look away from it. And just out of the blue, just, you know what? I notice whenever we look away, it teleports. So maybe if we stare at it, it just comes out of nowhere that they figure this out. But they do. And then the boyfriend goes back inside to work on his thesis. Then he comes outside and he starts messing with them. They're staring at the mannequin. He still doesn't believe in it. So he's going and messing with the mannequin, and then he plays a terrible prank on these people, acting like he's dying. And it says, look, it's just a mannequin. He lights it on fire. And he thinks that's it. Mannequin over. Then he walks inside, but the mannequin comes out. This guy's got no head. He decapitates this guy. You don't see the decapitation, but you see his body walk, and it's ridiculous. This guy's walking around like a chicken with his head cut off for way too long. He walks out of the house, down the porch steps, and like, I don't know, another 10 feet on the sidewalk with no head before he falls down. And then the mannequin comes out and he's holding his severed head. Probably the best scene in the movie, and it's not saying a lot. I'll also add, by the way, in that scene when he's burning the mannequin and all that, they all look away so many times, it's not even funny. We can have a whole bonus round of how many times these people look away from that mannequin and he's still standing there. So then they say we got to take shifts and watch the mannequin. So the black guy starts watching the mannequin. Then he starts falling asleep. Come on, man, are you kidding me? If you know that you have a supernatural killer mannequin right in front of you and you're supposed to be keeping guard and your eyes glued to this thing, you're falling asleep? I don't know about any of that. Then we get another insanely stupid scene. I mean, this movie's not great, I told you from the beginning. But you know what? I feel like Dave would have loved this movie. I wish we could have watched this together. He would have loved picking this apart too. They're in this room in the house, and they're all using the flashlights on their phone. They like take their phone flashlights out, and they're all shining it around the room, and the mannequin's appearing here and appearing there and appearing everywhere, and he's behind people, and then he's popping up right in front of people's faces, and they're screaming. They're still staring at it, but it's disappearing all over the place. So now there's 3 left. We got Frankie, Jonah, and the Asian girl. So now the blind guy arrives. And like I said, the design looks cool on him. This is where the movie goes in a totally different direction than I was ever seeing it going. But we do actually, this is probably the best kill in the movie, because you actually see some of it. The decapitation's cool, but you don't see it. This blind guy sits down, and he starts explaining what he knows about this mannequin. And he says that his daughter saw it first, then his wife, then their inner circle started seeing it, and they all started dying. He lost his daughter, lost his wife. Luckily, he's blind. He was never able to see it, but he felt its presence and shit. Now, remember when I said at the very beginning that he said he doesn't care about the insurance, it's not worth another human life? They think he's here to help, but he takes out, I don't know what it is, like an arrowhead or something sharp. He starts stabbing the Asian chick in the neck a bunch of times. Then he tries killing Jonah. Then Frankie, she's looking out the window at the mannequin who appeared, and he's telling her, don't take your eyes off of it no matter what. Then he tries killing Frankie. And his whole excuse here is that you guys can't be saved. And I gotta end this once and for all. So, I get it. I get what they're trying to do. I get that he's trying to stop this curse. It's kind of like Sadako's videotape from the ring. The more people who see it, then the more it's gonna curse. I get it, where he's coming from. He wants to kill off everybody who's been cursed. That way nobody can be affected again. And then he wants to take this mannequin and put it in storage like he planned initially. I feel like they just ran out of ideas of what to do with the mannequin, so they wrote this guy's whole killing spree in here at the end. Then they end up killing the blind guy, and Frankie and Jonah run out of the house. He falls down to the ground because he's been stabbed a few times in the stomach or chest or something. This guy is goddamn dead. He is deader than dead laying on the floor here. She tries calling an ambulance, and then he lets out a death gasp. And then she leaves him. But yet he's fine at the end of this movie. So I was surprised I remembered even the whole thing of what the blind guy said in the beginning about life insurance, not worth another life, being taken. I'm surprised I remembered this too. First of all, never expected to talk about this movie for 40 fucking minutes. And the second thing is the explanation that she again comes up with. There's no confirmation on this, but whatever, we'll go with it. Of why the mannequin doesn't kill her and Jonah right off the bat in the beginning. Even though the people who robbed the truck, their asses got murdered immediately. So she says that the mannequin needs more people to see it, to spread like a virus, again like Sadako's videotape. So it let her live and Jonah live for this long so the friends could see it, and we don't know the mannequin's motives. We don't know why it does this. Is it get something out of it? Does it get your life force? It doesn't matter with this fucking movie. But now she's the only one left. And she's walking around the house at the end here with a bat. This thing could teleport right behind her and just snap her goddamn neck or stab her or do anything. But yet nothing happens to her in this movie. And then the way they resolve this, I don't know what is this what they're trying to imply? Anyone else who's seen this or just from listening to it? She walks into a room in the house and the mannequin's standing there. But its back is to a mirror, and its front is facing a mirror. So it's sandwiched between two mirrors. He's here. Here's the mirrors. So are they implying that if it's looking at itself, then it still can't teleport? Because then she has it put into a crate that has a mirror on the top of it. So it's looking at itself in this coffin-like crate. And that's how she plans to get rid of it. Joan is miraculously alive and fine. They end up getting together at the end, all happy ending. And then the same shit that happens in the beginning, not a robbery, but these two incompetent workers drop the crate and it breaks open. And they see the mannequin, they look away, it disappears, it kills one of the guys in the movie heads. Is that what they're supposed to be saying? That the mannequin looking at himself also works for the whole don't look away rule? Because this is the one-ass time in this movie they follow this rule. But whatever, that's don't look away. This was fun, guys, just to talk a terrible film. I definitely needed this. I will talk to you guys soon. Take care, everybody.